I managed to release 100 pounds, and it was exactly 4 months to the date when I switched time.
Right. That's what got me. It was the time. I was like, you did 100 pounds in four months. Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching Healthy Alternative. Today, we've got a very special guest. I haven't got a chance to interview one of the men from our community in a little while, so I'm excited to sit down with Matthew today, talk about what were some of the things that he accomplished so far in his wellness journey, and really just dig in and get to know you a little bit. So, first of all, I want to thank Matthew for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, like it's actually my pleasure. I know I basically extended you a personal invitation, right? We was doing a live and you were like you had said something like you had lost X amount of weight or you accomplished XYZ goal, and I was like, yo, you got to come on a platform. And I think you set up a call like literally the same day or the next day.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So, the announcement was I managed to meet the goal. I didn't necessarily set the goal, but I managed to release 100 pounds, and it was exactly 4 months to the date when I switched time.
Right. That's what got me. It was the time. I was like, you did 100 pounds in four months.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, we got to get into that. People are going to want to know how you did that, man. So, I'm excited to dig into this. But before we kind of get into all of that, I do like to kind of look at some history, get a little background, so we can kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Mhm.
Um, what was your starting weight when you I guess found AHA or when you started your wellness journey?
So, and I guess this will be a first for a lot of things because I have kept my weight really, really close to me. Hardly anyone knows how much I started with. But I would say my starting weight when I checked, it was about 460. So about 460. And I literally discovered you guys at the beginning of this year. It was right around like maybe just the second week into January. I think I had just missed by a week and a half the R72s for January. But
Mm,
um but it's funny, I had no intention of looking for you guys fasting. Well, fasting was on my mind because I do have some previous experience with mainly intermittent fasting, but at the time when I came across one of your videos, I was actually kind of struggling to do longer than a 48-hour fast. I really wanted to do 72 hours, but
mhm.
I just had this big, huge mental block. Like once I was hitting on 48 hours, it just seemed real difficult. So I was just watching YouTube videos, wasn't even really looking up any health videos, but it was the video with Steven's interview that actually caught my attention. And it wasn't necessarily per se how much weight he had lost that caught my attention, but it was in the caption, on the thumbnail for the picture, it was like, no loose skin.
Mm,
And, as far as for a little bit from my background history, from, how I've gotten to where I am now, for the most part, I've been big all my life. Probably since I'll probably say at least 10 years old is when I was at least, overweight and big. So ever since I'll say at least 13 years old, I've always been over 300 pounds.
wow.
Um, yeah, throughout my adult life is when, things happen as you get older, things in life change, and, you adapt or adjust or you don't. And so the weight started packing on. And it wasn't until maybe like around the tail end of 2018, that was when, I decided to learn about the keto, diet and
Mm,
everything. And the funny thing about the keto diet was I didn't necessarily, I was never really a fan of doing diets because, it's the yo-yo thing. It doesn't really stay around for a long time.
yeah.
But I've always been concerned about health and, good food. I have a little bit of a culinary background. And so, a lot of friends that I have, they may ask me certain questions about things. And so people are starting to ask little questions about what's that keto thing I hear about? So and so they lost 20 pounds on keto. And I literally just started just because I just wanted to research about it, understand what it was about, not necessarily do it, but
Mm.
if people ask me questions, I can at least, share a little bit of information. But what intrigued me was just this thought of how there's a different, type of fuel your body can burn. And so once I went down that keto rabbit hole, that was when I learned about intermittent fasting, a little bit on fasting, like water fasting a little bit. And so, time goes on, the years go by, and the funny thing about where I am right now, Chris, is at the beginning of this year, I didn't have the desire to lose weight because that was the goal of getting healthy. To be honest, the person goal was me and mom are going on vacation later this year, and I had to catch, a plane. And me, I really get on planes. I don't have any issues with them. I just, if I don't have to, it's just not my preference. I don't mind doing road trips and driving cross country. So I was like, we're not driving to Florida, so we're gonna catch a plane. And I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in dealing with any type of embarrassment or any type of
Mm.
issues with, getting on the seats and whatnot. So I had known for at least the last 6 months, I got to do something about this weight. There was this list of small things that were starting to build that I would just experience with my health on a daily basis. Carrying so much weight, things that people don't deal with on a regular basis, or maybe they just don't talk about them, but like cramps all over the body, that was something that I would experience on a regular basis to the point where I got used to it. And it's kind of like, it's not a normal thing to get a Charlie horse or to deal with cramps and whatnot, but
Mm.
I'm like, I don't know. That's what I'm dealing with. So I'm willing to deal with it. But small things like that started adding up. So I was like, I got to do something. And I know with intermittent fasting, I had gotten used to not eating in the morning, pretty much eating in like, around noon or the mid afternoon. That was like a natural fit for me. But when I had watched Steven's video about the no loose skin, a light bulb went off in my head because that was one of the reasons why I had stopped focusing on losing weight for a little bit because
Mm.
this isn't my first, trip around the barnyard losing weight before. I've lost 100 pounds before, but unfortunately, I was sick at the time. I've
Ah.
had digestive issues for years, and so it came to a point where there was just a lot of internal damage, and the only way I got around that was I came across some other person's channel on YouTube, and I ended up doing a 72-hour fast. And when I did that 72-hour fast, I did that plus I went through a special month long, a special type of refeeding where you slowly introduce foods back in to figure out what the triggers are.
Hmm.
And literally after that 72-hour fast and taking a month to slowly recover, before then, yeah, I had lost a lot of weight because I couldn't eat. Literally, I was sick, so I
Right.
didn't lose weight the healthy way. So naturally, when things got repaired, I could start eating regular foods, stuff that was off the list for years. I was like, oh, I can have that again. So you start enjoying food again, and so
Hmm.
that just made the weight slowly creep back up. So when I came across the video, of Steven and not having any loose skin, that reminded me when I lost the weight the first time. When I had lost that 100 pounds the wrong way, I could see the sagging skin. I could see where, things were not the way I would like for them to be. I'm not a big fan of surgeries and things like that. And I was like, yeah, I don't see myself trying to get no expensive surgery just to take care of that. There's got to be some way to do that, even if it's long term. So you guys really got the little cogwheel spinning in my mind when I watched that video. And I was like, so I'm not crazy. There is there is a way out here to do it. I just need to know what's the right order, what are the right tools and things that I need. And I tell you, ever since I watched that first video, I like to I've gotten to chat with Shell a little bit, one on one, and Shell's gotten to know me that I like to research things on my own. I like
Mm.
to understand it myself. I don't mind hearing it from a reputable source, but I got to satisfy me first before I can just say,
Hmm.
yeah, I can take you. So, watch some of y'all videos. Enjoyed. It's a nice feeling when what you know is repeated from other people who know it, so it kind of resonates. So it makes it really encouraging that I'm on the right path of where I need to find the information that I need at just the right time when I needed it to show up. So once I got that resounding reassurance when I was hearing some of the methods that you were teaching, when got to hear Stephen talk, I'm a little, techie on, the health things like Steven does. So, all those numbers and different terms, I like stuff like this. Of course, I like monitoring stuff like that. But once I went down a rabbit hole, it's still ongoing, and it's not a bad rabbit hole. It's an excellent rabbit hole because I was given a lot of the structure that I needed. A lot of things I learned through life is self-taught, but one of the best things that helps me is when I get the structure and I get, the right format, the right order to put things in. So, yeah, so it wasn't really, a goal to lose weight in that short period of time. My biggest thing this time around was my mental game because I mean, when like a lot of people can also relate when you're dealing with being overweight, especially really overweight for so many years, it becomes one of those normal things where you try and figure out, okay, let me make better food decisions this way. Let me be, strict on myself in this way. So that's why I tell people a lot of this stuff is, your mental fortitude needs to be, it needs to be strong because it's not just as easy as saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it wasn't easy. I tell you that much. It wasn't easy, getting used to putting certain stressors on my body that it had to adjust to, doing, the different fasting styles and everything. But when I tell you I saw results, when I tell you I saw internal benefits, things getting better, because that was one of my biggest things. I eventually came to a point where I know the weight loss is going to come because at this point, when I say at this point, I'm talking about the beginning of this year when I got serious. It's not just the weight. By then, I realized there's so many other things that tie into being overweight that it's not just about losing the weight. It's about
Yeah,
better quality of life. I want my day to day quality of life to be better than what it was before. So, so that's how it turned into this big, huge health journey. And for so many years, not saying that I believe it 100%, but for so many years, I'm surrounded by information like you can't change this, you can't change that.
hmm,
It's in your genetics, it's X, Y, and Z. But then you have that small sliver of experiences like, well, I can do X, Y, and Z, and I can make choices, and that overrides that, which you say I can't get around. So I'm like, we're clashing, but we need to be on the same path going forward. So I'm like, I know some things I probably won't be able to fully fix and get rid of, but I have strong confidence that the body always wants to heal. And I learned from personal experience, you just got to give it the right conditions and give it the time that it needs. And the body will do exactly what it's programmed and designed to do to be the best that it can be.
absolutely, man. That's I did talk to Shell actually. She had mentioned you a couple times. I think maybe because I had like shouted you out or whatever. I'm not sure, but she said, "Yeah, Matthew, we talked about essential oils and stuff, and he just wanted a little bit of information. He wanted to go do his own thing." And I thought that that was so incredible because that's the mindset that you want. I mean, that's the mindset I want people to have. I don't want people to be like, "Oh, Chris is always right. Everything he says is correct. This is the cold hard facts." Because it builds I think when people do that, it builds kind of a cult like mentality where people are just
Mhm.
blindly following versus
Yeah.
going out and at least double checking, you know I mean, and
Hmm.
you could double check many different ways. You could obviously go do your own research. You could read books. You could do experimentation. I think observations that you make, like in reality, are the best. I love just thinking about my experience, my personal experience, and what I've seen others do and accomplish, and putting that against what I'm being taught. And then, of course, there's that internal um, voice. You know,
Hmm.
some call it the gut, some call it the spirit, some call it God, whatever. There's that
Hmm.
internal voice that tells you, okay, yes, this is resonating, or no, it's not. And I
Hmm.
think that's what you were referring to when you talk about how people say, "Oh, this is genetic. There's nothing you could do, and you'll never be able to correct that." But it's like,
It
that
don't feel
doesn't
right.
resonate, you know?
Right.
Um, man, that's amazing. I really love how you didn't approach this from the standpoint of I want to lose 100 pounds in 4 months. I think that that is one of the keys to your success, because a lot of people approach it with the weight being the primary reason that they're doing it, And then it becomes a mental game of watching the scale and getting upset and getting worried and focusing so much on weight that sometimes they end up holding on to more than what they should because their
Hmm.
focus is on weight.
Hmm.
So that just as a lesson to those out there, I think that's the way you approach it. Look at things from a standpoint of holistic wellness, or whatever driving force you have that's deeper than just the weight. There's a lot of mental things that you gain from this experience as well, which I want to dive into because I know you mentioned it's a mental game. Um, what would you say for you, what would you say was one of the most challenging aspects of what you've done so far?
I'll be honest, because I've been through a lot of mental things before I was introduced to AHA. It helped a lot, but everything is still, new when you do it for the first time. One of the biggest fears that I've had, which I have been constantly working on for almost the last year or so, is I have a big fear of the unknown. Not in a general sense, but for the most part, I like to know what's coming down the road. I like to at least be prepared. If I know two people are around the corner, okay, I'm not going to get spooked and jump if I just walk by and they're not there. So sometimes, like say for instance, with when we first started with the R72, by then I had gotten over my initial mental hump of I can't get past 48 hours. So I was like, okay, I can get to 72 if I got past 48. But it was still of like, I don't know exactly what to expect. How am I going
Mm,
to respond if my body acts a certain way? What if I feel like I get the jitters or something? Should I be quick to go run and try and break my fast? And it's stuff like that. And for me, I can't really, tackle that head on until I'm actually there, once I'm actually going through it. So having kept that particular focus in mind of, hey, you can only control so much. The most you can do right now is do what you can to keep your nervous levels down so you're not feeling too anxious. Just it's nothing really bad or serious going on. So if you do feel like it's the end of the world, you do have options. So it's not like you're going to die and go to the ER or anything. So I will probably say when it comes to the mental aspect for me, it's been constantly reassuring myself that just because we don't know exactly what to expect or what to happen, first, let's go ahead and reassure ourselves nothing bad is going to happen, and you have
mm,
enough preparation, so it'll be just fine if something happens. And then once we get to that particular, fork in the road, now we get to the point where we say it's not that bad. We're experiencing that. Okay, it really is not as bad as I thought it was.
mhm,
I do have support from from chatting with folks in the AHA community or chatting with, my smaller circle of personal fasting friends. And sometimes that helps a lot it can just be a distraction sometimes, which is good to
mm,
just have a conversation with somebody about what's going on or something different. And now I've gotten to the point where I constantly focus on having positive thoughts, not negative thoughts. It's not easy to
yeah,
do that, but the first step moving forward is at least trying, at least making an effort. If you don't get what you wanted the first time, you tried. So you started something new. You
mm,
started, to make that new habit, those new connections in your mind. So now I look at it as though, okay, let's look at it as something good that we can look forward to and something that can put a smile on our face, something that we can, say that sounds fun or that sounds really, interesting and cool. Like say for instance, some people experience that little euphoric high you may get when you're going through a nice good water fast, especially when you've gone, the first few days and now you're in the flow and it's going. I mean, I have them many times and it's nice. You focus, you're dialed in, nothing else matters. You can keep on going. And sometimes I use that as motivation. Okay, I'm looking forward to once I get through these first couple of days. I may have some detox symptoms on this fast, but okay, once we get past that, let's look forward to, the high that's coming our way so we can, feel good. So I allow myself to take baby steps when it comes to trying to focus on my mental game because I've already experienced from personal experience, from reading and from seeing other people's experience that if you try too much and you try something too new that your body has no solid connections for doing or habits for, it's
mhm,
not going to be easy.
Yeah.
You may work really hard that first day to keep on point, and you feel good at the end of the day. But you wake up in the morning, that those habits aren't set in stone. They're still being formed. Your mind is still trying to figure out, okay, what does this have to do with us, and how can we keep it going? And you may find it may be more of a struggle. So, it's allowing myself to take baby steps. If I realize that I need to work on something or I need to change something for the better, the first thing that I do for the next few days is I just have a conversation with myself about that.
Mm,
Whether it's internally or out loud, I talk about what I'm currently not satisfied with, why I'm not satisfied with it, and what's at least the first thing that we can try. And yes, I say we, even though I'm talking about me, but I say, what can we try to at least start to, building a new path? And once I start working on that, I always tell people it's difficult to set a goal and meet it, but it's very easy when you set what I call a stupid goal. A stupid goal is something that you know you can accomplish. If you say I'm not going to eat out for a week and you're used to eating out every day of the week, that's the big goal. But you can set a stupid goal to say I'm not going to eat out one day out of the week. You say,
right.
okay, I can do that. You set that and you do that at least 2 or 3 times, you start building a good habit. Now you have a foundation that you can build on top of that so you can go forward. So I like to use that's the type of strategy I like to use in my mind because I just know, I mean, I'm in my 30s by now. I've been going through things in life for years, but at this point, I should know what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And if I don't know, I should have some type of idea. I think that's working or I think that's not working. So I'm at the point now where it's like we know enough, where it's like, let's not waste our time because time becomes so precious as you get older and you get none of that back.
Mm,
Anything that you waste, you don't get back. You may find ways to improve how you spend your time, but what's already in the past, it's already gone.
hmm.
Can't look at that, can't dwell on it, but let's see what we can learn from it. So that's what's really helped me to get through my mental struggles, as I will call them, when they came up. Allow myself to take baby steps and build small goals that I can work on top of because the body loves easy and it loves to build on top of that. So I'm gonna go with that flow.
Man, I hope people are taking notes because no, seriously, like obviously we talk about positive reinforcement, positive affirmations. Shell is really, really big on affirmations. Telling yourself that everything's going to be okay is a form of an affirmation, especially when you're thinking, oh, well, what if this and what if that? And you're kind of all over the place. Hey, everything's going to be okay. You're approaching this the right way. You've invested time, you've invested resources. You're not just jumping out here willy-nilly. We're going to
Hmm.
cross that bridge when we get there. That
Hmm.
is because I mean, so many people deal with that fear of the unknown, and on top of that, depending on the circle that you have around you in life, in real life,
Mm.
they may
Yeah.
discourage you. They may say,
Yeah.
hey, you're going to die. Hey, this is going to make you sick. You're going to end up in the hospital. And then that, once again, encourages that negative reinforcement. So we have a lot that we have to combat sometimes in order to be like, okay, I'm going to take this leap of faith. Right. I do my best to showcase that it's not really a leap of faith. These are duplicatable results that a variety of people can get. We show everything from a young, a young person to an older person, male, female, whatever. Um, so that right there is so key, that that positive reinforcement, because like I say, I mean, they say most of our thoughts are negative. I mean, like 80% of our thoughts are negative. And if our thoughts are building our reality, the perception of our reality, then if they're negative, then we're going to have a negative outlook on life. So
Hmm.
actively changing those isn't this is not just for like your weight loss journey or your health journey. This is for how you look at the world, how you look at life and the future.
Hmm.
It's important to do this work. Uh, you had mentioned the R72, so I wanted to start kind of getting into kind of the nuts and bolts of what you actually did. So, from my understanding, you have done two challenges with the AHA team, right?
Yeah, the R72 and wrapping up the 21-day challenge.
And so I think our R72 challenge started at the beginning of January.
Hmm.
So, oh no, we did too. You know what? We did too. So you caught the second one, right?
Yeah, I caught the one in February. So when I swore I missed it by like a week, probably a week and a half. But when it happened, I was like, man, I was like, I could have got on that, but I was like, I'm not going. I don't know if it was mentioned for February just yet. At the time when I had heard about, it, I don't think it was. And so I says, okay, well, we're not going to sweat that. I'm pretty sure that something else will come up in the future, but that just means I have resources I can look at right now. So, and the part that really made it much more easier and attractive for me is another quick piece of my background is I'm an IT, so that's my bread and butter, fixing computers. And the funny thing about it is, outside of my job, I could care less about technology because technology is hands is full enough as is. So I don't do anything on social media. Of course, I have them because I had them years ago, but I rarely use them. So I think maybe one Facebook game or something like that. So at first, when I found AHA and there was a Facebook group, I was like, I don't do Facebook and do social media, so I don't know. But then when you guys were talking about the Mighty Network and the AHA communities, I was like, okay, that's something I know that's definitely geared towards, what I'm learning about AHA for. So, okay, we can go ahead and check that out. I don't have to worry about being bamboozled about all this other stuff and,
Hmm.
content and everything. I'll just stick with that. And so that made it easy. And another thing which really, really helped me with AHA communities ties into what you mentioned about our circle. And I was watching one of the videos on YouTube. I don't remember when it was, when you had made it, but I remember you were talking about. I think the other coaches were on or something. I can't remember what I was, but I remember you saying sometimes I feel like, I don't quote me because I may not get it right, but it was something like I just feel like, everyone in my current circle or, everyone who's surrounding me is like I'm not on the same page as them. It was like no one's on the same wavelength as me. And that got me thinking. And I was like, well, me naturally, part of me, yeah, I'm a loner. I enjoy my alone time. I do spend time with friends and family, but I enjoy having my little solitude time so I can just chill out and hang out by myself. And so I was thinking, well, I don't have a problem necessarily with, people and friends because I already keep that tight knit. And I do have, my small little group of, just a few friends who wants to fast. So we was doing our own little fasting challenges and whatnot. I says, but I don't really have anybody that I can actually talk to about what I'm going through right now. And regardless of if I'm, a social person or a loner, I'm still a human being. We still need interaction. Whether people like it or not, you'll find that people who don't really like to interact with people, once they get to have a good conversation with a certain person, especially if it matches, the wavelength that they're on, they realize it wasn't that bad having a conversation with them. So it's not a bad thing to associate with people. So I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't really have that. Like, I can tell people what I'm going through. I can let my mom and close friends know what I'm currently working on, but they don't understand when I'm talking about fasting and water fasting and detox and symptoms. If they see one sign of you look like you're not feeling well, they think, oh, something's wrong. Oh, you got to eat. And so it's like,
Right.
I already know that that's not going to work for me because I already put in the work and got some experience with it. So I know what to expect and look for. They don't. So I got to, not tiptoe on, eggshells, so to speak, but I have to be mindful of what I choose to talk about around them. So having the AHA communities, that was my outlet so that I can be able to share the same type of thoughts with similar people. So that helps me out so much being able to do that. But during the actual challenge, it's funny how I started the R72 for February. So I was going through the month of January. I was watching the videos, reading a little bit I could here and there. Came into the AHA communities, and when you guys mentioned it for February, I was like, "Bet I'm gonna go ahead and sign up. Let's just go ahead and knock that out."
Yeah.
I already have enough, reassurance invested where I'm not worried about, am I going to hear something weird? Am I going to be concerned about trying this particular technique? I'm like, no, it's just one of those things when you experience with stuff and you can understand what other people are trying to share with people. It's not rocket science. It's pretty easy. So I said, good, we're going to jump in. But the funny thing about how that started was the the time when we were supposed to start the R72 for February, right before I knew the date it was going to start, me and my own little circle of friends, we had already been doing little water fasting challenges. And so we had said that we wanted to try doing a 5-day water fast. And by then I had managed to get over my 48-hour hump. So I was like, shouldn't be too bad. But once I got the dates, I was like, how in the world am I going to do this? Because we're supposed to be during the prep week, and I'm trying to get those dates right. And then when I'm supposed to do our fast, it kind of spills over to when we're supposed to do a refeed or whatnot. And I think what happened was when we had started our 5-day fast, that was when we were kind of like in the middle or right when I think we were like in the middle of doing prep week because when
Right.
I had time, I said, well, by the time I finish this 5-day water fast, I'm really supposed to have like 2 days left of doing, like juicing before we go into the actual fast, something like that. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. So what was supposed to have been just a 5-day water fast ended up turning into like an 8.5-day water fast. And
Uh,
because I was like, by then I like to plan things to be organized. But ever since this year started, I've been really focusing on the more organic approach. Work with your body, work with your limits, and not once you've surpassed the limits. Once you listen to those signals that let you know, hey, we're getting a little close. We should kind of dial back our energy so we don't spread ourselves too thin. And I was like, it's getting real difficult trying to figure out, am I going to be able to juice this in time and get the fruits and for this and that, and then jump right back into, fasting. And I was like, yeah. And I've gotten to the point where if I'm going past my limits and I'm thinking too much, my subconscious will already shut it down before I even realize it. And I go to
mhm.
bed and wake up in the morning and won't have no thought about it. And I be like, I thought I was supposed to do it. And it's like I get this little voice. It was like, no, remember we said you didn't listen. So we said no. So I was like, fine, we'll just fast. So ended up being an 8.5-day fast. Right after that, by then I think I was joining you guys for the first refeed. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, so at least I can come and do a refeed. By then, I was still learning a lot about refeeding. I understood enough that you can't just come off a fast and just eat food. I've already
Right.
learned that the difficult way, and like I don't want to go through that pain and that uncomfortableness. So I was like, okay, I got to do it a certain way. And then once I did that, and jump right back in, that's when I was like, okay, now I can start, flexing the fasting muscle of, fasting for 72 hours, get your refeed in and redo it. And so once that flow came on, at first I was like, this is sweet. Once you hit 3 days, you're like, man, okay, when are we gonna get the next meal? When can I eat again? So
Right.
it's like, okay, we can go ahead and do that. But like midway through, it was like the opposite effect. It was like by then my body got used to fasting. So by the time we hit 72 hours and we were ready to refeed, I was like, man, I felt like I was just getting somewhere. Like I like things were just starting to, get better and roll and start moving forward. And so, but I was like, this is one of those things where it also helps you to practice discipline. There's
Mhm.
a
There you
good
go.
reason why you're repeating it constantly. It's not because you're trying to, get as much weight loss as you can. You're going to get some weight loss. You're going to get some results. But it's like, let's go just a layer below what's currently going on and realize we're building discipline here. At least that's how I took it. I'm like, we're
Mhm.
building discipline. You're helping your body to see, okay, those first few cycles, now the body's getting into a flow. Okay, now we know, okay, after about 3 days, we can start expecting something in. So the body's like, now I can work with you. We got a flow going. And now you and your body on the same page because it's like now we know we're working together on what we got going on. And so we know what we can expect. But towards the end, I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready to try something longer because like the last few refeeds, I was like, I just feel like I'm right on the cups of like getting something more out of
Mm.
what I'm getting. And especially since I had kind of got a little taste from doing that 8.5-day fast, I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not getting anywhere near close to what I was experiencing as far as what I was detoxing and coming out. So I was
Mm.
like, I know that whatever I have in my body, the majority of it needs to come out because it doesn't need to be in there anyway. So just always expect some type of result that's happening. So once the R72 is over, of course, I was all excited in the group, and I'm like, okay, what we got next? I want to, get my dates set up and everything, and so I can, have my calendar played out. But originally, the only goal I set weight wise for myself, I says, well, I know if I really want to, because I did it before in the past. I know if I want to, I could lose 60 pounds in 60 months, or I could do more. I know at least to an extent what my body is capable of.
Hmm.
So I was mainly thinking of by the time September, October gets here, I want to kind of at least be somewhere where I've lost enough weight where I can feel comfortable, getting on a plane. That was at the beginning of the year. But once I started seeing not only what was coming out of my body during the detoxing,
Mm,
but, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have some questions about this, but can I just talk about the type of healing that the body gets to do when you get to
absolutely.
get stuff out of your body? Mind blowing. So here's a funny story about my allergies. So ever since I was a kid, I've always been, I've always had the bad allergies, highly susceptible to seasonal allergies, eyes itching, got to take the medicine and everything, pollen, dust and everything, of course, the animals as I get older. So allergy medication has been a part of my life for years. So, of course, as you get older, you got to spend your own money. You figure, is this brand better than that one? So you dibble and dabble and you find what you like. And it was last year that I was busy with other stuff going on. I think I had gotten a break from my allergies with the weather and whatnot, and I just forgot to take my allergy medicine. It had been like almost a week that I hadn't taken my allergy medicine. So I was like, oh, let me get back on taking my allergy medicine. So I went back on taking it. After the first 2 weeks, something happened where, I don't know, I caught a cold or something. And all I remember was I didn't want to take anything else because I just wasn't feeling that great. So I cut the allergy medicine cold turkey. And believe me when I tell you, for me in that time of my life was the worst thing to do. So I
Mm,
went cold turkey. I mean, it's a small little white pill, Chris, a small little white pill you take once a day. I stopped taking the cold turkey. The first few days, I mean, I was still recovering from a cold. So I thought it was some lingering effects. But like by the end of day three, going into day four, I just had that feeling like I just didn't feel all that great. I wasn't sick. I just didn't feel great. And so I was talking to another friend, allergy victim like me, and he was saying, I was telling him about the medicine. He was like, "Do you think you're addicted to it or something?" Because
oh.
he suffers from depression, and he realized that the allergy medication he was taking, one of the side effects was it worsened his depression. So he had to come off of
Mm.
it because it would make him depressed. And so I was like, "Do you think?" I'm like, do you?" I'm like, "It's just a small pill. Do you think so?" And he was like, "I don't know. What do you think?" And we like to use a lot of functional thinking with each other instead of giving each other the answer. We reason and be like, what do you think? You got to make a decision. So I was like, well, I'm a fan of doing little experiments. So I was like, cool. I said, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna start taking the medication again, and we'll just see how I feel. Here's the crazy part. I went home that night. Usually, when you have allergy medicine, if it's your first time or you've taken a hiatus and you come back, they always recommend you do a double dose when you first start. So I took my double dose. Um, Keep in mind, I wasn't feeling all that great. I just felt like I wanted to be sick, but I just wasn't sick.
Mm.
And I took the double dose, and less than 12 hours later, because I took it before I went to bed, and I'm an early riser. So when I woke up, I was like, I could breathe. I was like, hold on. Right as soon as I, rolled up out of bed and sat up, I was like, I had a lot of brain fog. And so I was like,
Mm.
I feel like I can think clearly or something. And I was like, I just took those two pills. It was less than 12 hours ago. So I did the experiment for a few more days and found out it was the allergy medicine because I had cut it so cold turkey. So I said, that's crazy. It was almost like a drug addiction. Like,
Wow.
whatever was supplying, my body when it wasn't there, the body was like, dude, like, where is it? We need it.
Yeah.
And I said, that's crazy. This small little white pill has that much control over me. So that was one of the first things with help. I was like, yeah, I want to get off these allergy medicines because I don't know what else is doing internally to me if
Hmm.
that small pill has that big of an effect, for me being on it for that long. So when I had started the R72, that's when I was like, whatever I'm taking at that time, I'll just stop. And I'll deal with, whatever withdrawal symptoms because I'm going to go through detox symptoms anyway. So Let's go ahead and build up, the little experience muscle so we can just be prepared for it. We can get through it. So that was the first thing that I noticed had went away. Like when I was doing that little 8.5 day fast, and then throughout the rest of the R72, um, allergies. I didn't need to take the allergy pills anymore. The seasons didn't bother me as much. When the weather gets real bad and got that high pollen count, I felt it a little bit more, but it was better. But after the R72, and of course, because I was still working on my mental game for, the mindset of eating and whatnot, of course, I go back to a few bad habits. I'm not going to say some because some can be a lot, but a few for what I will allow and test to see how my body responds. And sure enough, within 2 weeks after, going back to, regular processed foods and not heavily like all the time, but just knowing that it's not completely plant based, it's processed. Sure enough, within 2 weeks later, all my allergies came back, and I was like crazy, can't breathe through my nose now. So I was like, yeah, that's another sign that there's certain. I have a list of things that I know I'm not interested in eating. That's processed and junk food. I may have my little vices here, but slowly they're getting ticked off. Like, we need to take that off. We need to take that off. We don't need that. We don't need that. And um, I will probably say I'm gonna wait to interact with you a little bit more about the 21 day, because the R72 is what helped to build that discipline of getting the body used to fasting for those 72 hours and refeeding. But it wasn't until we did this whole 21-day fasting challenge that was where I really got to see results. And when I'm talking about results, it's not the weight, it's mainly with things that are being fixed in my body, things that are
Yeah,
healing, because the weight is going to come. Like a big thing that I learned that I didn't really pay attention to was how much weight your body can hold if you're inflamed or you're dealing with chronic pain and stuff. And so I'm like, can't believe that all that just adds to the weight. And if you can cut that down, that's extra weight. You don't have to worry about your body holding on to. But
exactly.
yeah, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and interject because I don't know where I done got lost in in it's all somewhere.
No, you're straight. You're straight. Yeah, this is good, man. You made a very interesting point as it relates to that allergy medication, because you first of all, you kept describing it as just a small little white pill, right? And we do often relate size to impact. We think, oh, these huge pills, they're doing all this stuff, or something small is not really doing that much. And when it comes to chemistry of the body, that's just not really a thing, right? You could take what is that stuff you put on the little rag? I don't know if you used to watch Dexter, but
Yeah,
like,
I've watched Dexter. Yeah.
what did he put on that rag to like make people go to sleep? Like
Oh,
chlorophyll?
I know what you're talking about. I can never remember the name of it, but
Okay,
I like to
okay.
say, I don't know if you watched Pet, Ace, Pet Detective Ace
Yeah,
Ventura. I
yeah.
watched that when I was a kid. The first movie, he was chasing after man, on the track team, so he put a little thing in the thing and
Yeah,
knocked him
yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly. But it's like it's just a little bit of liquid, right? But it can knock a grown man out, right?
Yeah, it's
So
so strong.
we have to really look at like the chemistry of things, but what people do not think about are the side effects of these little pills we take. We think
Mhm.
about, okay, is this pill helping me in XYZ? Okay, maybe it's helping with XYZ. But then if you don't pay attention, it's like there could be a side effect of that pill that's worse than the thing that you're taking the pill for. And
Mhm.
becoming addicted to an allergy medication in any capacity, it's terrible. It's a great
Yeah.
business model, right, for the
Mhm.
pharmaceutical company,
Yes, sir,
because
it
you start
is.
feeling a little off and you're like, well, the only thing I did was stop taking my allergy medicine. Let me get back on that. And a lot of people will take it, and because maybe they don't have the type of friend you have where you guys are like really trying to figure things out, they might just start taking it. I feel better and just keep on about it, you
A
know?
lot of people do that. A lot of people do that.
I mean, that's very, very common. So I think you talking about your experience with this is going to cause people to be like, wait, what? Well, would this also correlate to me taking blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, or whatever? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Do that introspective work. I think it's important, and obviously I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe. I'm not telling people do not take your medication. But if
Right.
you if you think that it might be beneficial, come off your medication for 3 days or 4 days or whatever. See how you feel. How does your body respond?
Mhm.
Because you may not like what you experience. And then that will tell you, oh man, maybe I need to look at this different. And
Yeah.
maybe with part of the research you did, you may have learned that you can use essential oils to help support your system, for allergies and cholesterol and blood pressure, sugar, and all these things, and then you don't get
Yeah.
the negative side effects. You know,
Yeah.
the actual essential oils could actually give you positive effects that you didn't expect.
Yeah,
So,
I've experienced that firsthand. It was when you're doing different fasting challenges, and like when we're doing the R72s, you find you do have more time on your hands, and so
mm,
I don't have a whole bunch of responsibilities at home other than my house, my animals, my who I call my kids, and making sure that my I look after my mom. I don't have too much responsibilities compared to other people, so sometimes I like to use that to my advantage. And so when things interest me, I did a whole bunch of reading, and I'm of course reading is fundamental. I love reading, but do I love reading on a regular basis? Not on a regular basis, but when I have something that motivates me, something that's like, hey, you get this answer.
mhm,
If you want to know about this and that, I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and read it, and I'll blaze through a book, but I make sure that I understand it. I still got certain rules, man, so I can't just blaze through a book just to say I've done it. I got to make sure I understand what I'm reading, so not
mm,
just to be reading, just to be reading. But I learned a lot about different functions of the body. Of course, when you want to make sure that you're reading things right, you have that natural curiosity. So you look for case studies, you look for people referencing other different types of, you know, studies or things that were done to see, what effect does this have, or, what does this effect have? And it helps. But one of the things that I'm happy I didn't stick 100% to is just book knowledge. A lot of people have book knowledge. A lot of people have a lot of knowledge from reading things, understanding things. That's granted. We have the internet at our fingertips. That knowledge is there for us, but it's a different thing when you have to apply it in real life. It's a different thing when you do get a chance to experience it for yourself
mm,
firsthand. So, you know, a lot of stuff that I learned over this last 4 months, I have a lot of stuff I had no clue about. And I don't feel bad about that. I feel excited about it because I know more than what I knew 4 months
yeah,
ago. And it does me no good thinking about I wish I had known that. No, you know it now. So what you gonna do? So let's go ahead and make a choice and a decision from that. But yeah, this healing thing that was a game changer for helping me to make decisions for how I need to move forward. Because
mm,
like I mentioned, I knew I had the weight, and the weight wasn't, but by this point, I had knew for the last 3 years, I got a lot more other stuff going on internally than just the weight. Yes, the having lesser weight can definitely help to mitigate and manage these things more easier, but some things I need to pay more attention to than just losing weight. There are some things that I won't be able to really say it that I'm going to lose the weight for until I fix certain issues inside of my system, like
mm,
with digestive issues, and me and my family, how we grew up, we didn't really bother going to the doctor unless we absolutely needed to. Again,
right,
we're not saying that we have anything against, doctors and hospitals. They're there for their reasons, but just going because, you got a headache, or, you got a tummy ache, that wasn't us. We learned how to do home natural remedies. And if it's not working, or we caught it too late and we need the help, that's what they're there for when we use it. So for me, going through these digestive issues for years, it's not like when you're experiencing discomfort and pain for years, you've already invested years into it. And unfortunately for a lot of us, we don't have the interest level to actually double that and do it again in doctor's office, telling people about our body that they have no idea about. I resonate very closely with people, with a lot of people who say, you are your doctor first, as far as
mm,
for you knowing what's going on in your body, especially if you're paying attention to it. If you're not paying attention, you letting other people tell you this is what that means and how you feel in this way, that's a whole different conversation. But if you're paying attention to the signals in your body and you understand what's going on in your body, at least to a certain extent, you can know whether, do I feel okay, or is that a weird feeling that I think I should get checked out? Or is it something I should just sit on a couple of days and see how my body feels while making some changes along the way so I can help my body in case something is going on? It's thinking like that, it takes some people some effort to get there, but for a lot of people, they just haven't tapped into, just listening to your body, and they can help out. So, and I say all that to say, after dealing with these digestive issues for years, I wasn't going to waste my time and money going to a specialist who can guess and say, "Oh, we think you have, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or this and that going on." No, I know from experience and doing enough research and resonating with what I've been looking at and monitoring that, yeah, whether you can call it undiagnosed, but that matches all the symptoms of what I got going on right there. And having worked on reducing my stress levels, taking certain foods out of my system, trying to do certain, methods of repair internally so that things can heal and get back to better. I've come a long way, I've come a long way over the last 5 years.
Mm,
But it's like, the journey has really just begun because now I have the structure that I've been looking for, kind of like which way should I go? What should I do about this or that? Just a simple point of understanding that fasting is a tool. You guys took the time to explain it to us in one of the videos and one of the lives. That helped me so much to reinforce that thinking with other people because we the world that we live in today is terrible. It's horrible. It's stressful on a lot of us. We don't have time to deal with it. People want something quick. So when people find something that works, especially when they feel good, they hit the ground running. And then sometimes a natural thing is to use that to fix everything. So
right.
it's nice to hear reassurance. Hey, fasting, especially water fasting, whatever type of fasting that you're doing, that's not the one all be all. That's not that that's not that gold shovel that just fit, that just smooths everything out. No,
Right.
it helped for me to understand that fasting is like a tool. And I don't know if it was you or Stephen who gave us the picture image, but it was, imagine fasting as being like a shovel. And when you're fasting, you're digging into layers of your body. And those layers reveal what's already there. Like one good example was, I can't remember if it happened like in the last few weeks or so. Somebody found out they were deficient in something and they ended up going to the ER. And I thought it was reassuring to hear for everyone to realize it's not fair to just blame what we're doing as causing issues that's going on,
Right.
but it helps to understand what you're getting involved in and what you're doing actually does for your body. Is not going to make you deficient or sick, but if anything, at the very onset, when you notice something's going on, it's just a layer that's been peeled open. You're just being revealed what's already there. It's just
Hmm.
more pronounced because you don't have the buffers of all the food and everything to kind of balance that out for you.
See?
So
Yep.
it's like you have to understand some things your body keeps as a resource and uses when it needs, and some things you do have to supply from food on a regular basis. But it's things like that which help in understanding that just because something doesn't work for you like it worked for somebody else, it doesn't mean that it didn't do anything for you. It doesn't mean that it didn't work. It just means that just take a step back, just breathe and relax and take a moment to reflect on what you just experienced and realize either I'm not doing something right or the goal that I have in mind is not lining up with what I'm trying to make that goal get met by, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that part of using fasting as a tool, that's all constantly on my mind because at first in the beginning, I'm like, this is great. I can go and take a break from, not eating. I can save some money. I can go ahead and lose some weight and get some other things fixed. But then you realize it's not quite that easy, especially depending on what's going on in your particular situation. So it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I can't just do this forever. I need to be a little bit thoughtful or intentional about how I want to use it and how it can help me because it's not like it was just out there waiting for somebody to grab fasting. We all naturally know about fasting, whether we realize it or not. The
Mhm.
famous example is when you go to sleep at night, you're fasting. Why do you think they call it? Well, even though it can be used for however they want to market it, but why do you think it's called breakfast? You need to break your fast. You've been fasting. And,
Right.
people do it, they just don't realize it. So, um, but yeah, I mean I like that's the main part I got of it is fasting is a tool, not the the silver bullet or however they say it.
Yeah, 100%. I actually did a whole video talking about fasting and how it's not the silver bullet. Um, but it's one of the tools, and one of the tools that I think is important for people to utilize when they start, especially like a fasting journey, is like a wellness journal. And
Hmm.
we definitely I want to talk about some of the tools and things that you did use.
I know,
Um,
right?
yeah, see, there you go. There you go. I want to talk about some of the tools and things you use because, this introspective work that you did during this time, being able to write it down, go back to the notes, compare notes. January 1st, I felt like this. February 1st, I felt like this. Oh, and in between, you see what did I do? And so if you have a positive outcome in February versus January, you could see, okay, this really worked. All right. And it helps it be it's like you're solidifying what you're doing and the benefit that you're getting. And I found that to be extremely beneficial as I went on my wellness journey and things got more difficult. And I would ask myself, like, why am I doing this to myself? Like,
Because those
you
questions
know,
come up.
you know and then I could go back to my notes and my notes will be like, oh, this is why I forgot I used to have heart palpitations. I don't have heart palpitations anymore. It's like if you're
Mhm.
not documenting it, you can almost forget, because as you've mentioned a few times now, when it comes to like this ease, you kind of get used to it. You kind of just be like, cramps, stomach issues is what it is kind of
You
my
just
thing,
deal with it.
right? So you actually forget like your quality of life as you begin improving it with fasting.